Now, a former state lawmaker from the 25th Legislative District, which includes Puyallup and some of the surrounding communities, has been tapped by the Trump administration and sworn in last week. This is Kelly Chambers. She was, again, a state lawmaker from the 25th. And now, under the Trump administration, she's been tapped to be the regional administrator for the U.S. Small Business Administration. So she's got 4 states in her territory. It's Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. Now, she is herself the co-owner of a local franchise for in-home senior aid provider Visiting Angels. So she's got her own small business knowledge. I think she's been doing that for about 20 years. Um, and she says really the threat now to small businesses here in the state of Washington from the crushing tax burden, even before the income tax goes into effect, is really a threat to the American dream, as she sees it. It is a pathway now threatened for so many people, and now the income tax yet to come. So it may be the last straw for many. We've reported on that here at Washington in Focus Daily with some of the concerns being raised by small business groups. The National Federation for Independent Business has weighed in on this. Lots of worry about that. So now we've got Kelly Chambers in her new role with the Trump administration as a small business administration regional administrator, and her advocacy for business here in Washington state may be more critical than ever.
And I've seen for years, people moving out of state, and I think the passage of the income tax is really putting the pressure on, and it's really escalating people to finally pull the trigger, and uh, they're making those moves. I talked to a business this morning that opened up in Pierce County a couple years ago, and they said we have 7 years left on our lease, and we are already starting to look where to relocate. So, uh, you know, some businesses are tied into leases and things that tie them geographically to Washington, but it's not lost on them the bigger picture of if they're going to have long-term success, where they need to go in order to operate successfully.
Now, Chambers told me she knows there are many burdensome regulations on small business and some contradictions really between federal and state laws. And the SBA has an Office of Advocacy where they call them red tape hotline complaints. And you can see that here. She asked me specifically in our interview to say, make people aware of this hotline. People are under a crushing burden of regulations. Again, those contradictions between what the state of Washington is requiring versus what the federal administration is requiring. She says the Trump administration is more sympathetic to that now than ever, really trying to give small business a hand up. And so she wanted to bring attention to that hotline where it says here, you can make a complaint if regulations that are costly, confusing, outdated. There are permitting or licensing delays, duplicative or conflicting rules, excessive paperwork, or unclear guidance. So, if you simply Google SBA red tape hotline, you can find more information on that. And she really encouraged any small business operator who, is maybe dealing with some of these issues to file that complaint and get some help from the SBA. And we've got her now in our corner for small business interests in the state of Washington. Um, we've talked a lot about business leaders relocating. I want to bring your attention again to some of the recent coverage we did. Association of Washington Business, they did a survey. I think it was produced back on February the 5th, and there were 400 plus members that participated in this survey. And they found 44% of business leaders in Washington state considering moving their personal residence out of the state. 44%. That was in Western Washington. It was even higher. It was 56% of business owners in Eastern Washington considering, re-domiciling, getting the heck out of here, especially before this income tax goes into effect. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to relocate their business, but that same survey from AWB did find that 17% of business owners in the state of Washington say they have begun to consider whether it makes sense to continue operations here in the state of Washington or uproot everything, relocate employees, relocate what they do. Of course, not everybody can do that. But that was pretty fascinating statistic, and that just year over year had more than doubled because that same survey a year prior found only 9% of business owners, AWB members, saying they are considering relocating their business.